This is the TFV Weekly News Report. In this week's news, the US Supreme Court may turn over abortion rights. Millions of women across the United States are at risk of losing their legal right to abortion. According to the leaked document published by Politico, the country's top court is prepared to overturn Roe v. Wade, which was the 1973 decision that legalized abortion nationwide. The decision involved the case of Norma McCorvey, known by the legal pseudonym Jane Roe, who in 1969 became pregnant and wanted an abortion. However, she lived in the state of Texas where abortions were illegal except for situations to save a mother's life. A lawsuit was filed on her behalf in the US federal court against her local district attorney, Henry Wade, alleging that Texas's abortion laws were unconstitutional. A three-judge panel of the US District Court heard the case and ruled in her favor. The state of Texas then appealed directly to the US Supreme Court, and in 1973, the Supreme Court issued a 7-2 decision in McCorvey's favor, ruling that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution provides a right to privacy that protects a pregnant woman's right to choose whether to have an abortion. It also ruled that this right is not absolute and must be balanced against governments' interest in protecting women's health and prenatal life. Now, if the court strikes down the Roe v. Wade ruling, individual states would be allowed to ban abortion if they wish. It is expected that abortion could potentially be banned in almost half of America. 13 states have already passed so-called trigger laws that will automatically ban abortion if Roe v. Wade is overruled this summer. If the court does overturn Roe, it will fall on our nation's elected officials at all levels of government to protect a woman's right to choose, President Joe Biden said in a statement earlier this week. Women in their 20s account for the majority of abortions. Black American women undergo abortions at the highest rate in America. They account for nearly 40% of the abortions in America, but are around 12.9% of the female population. Kenyans are calling on the Duke of Cambridge to help Kenyan tribes secure reparations and for an apology from Britain after their ancestral lands were turned into tea plantations in the colonial era, as they have said in a letter to him. Representatives of more than 100,000 Kenyans petitioned the Duke to intervene in the dispute. They argued they were suffering ongoing hardship due to losing such precious land to profit-hungry corporations. It is the latest in a recent series of appeals to the royal family from Commonwealth countries after Caribbean nations sought support in their appeal for reparations for slavery. The petition comes a year after 6 UN special representatives wrote to the government expressing concerns for the UK's failure to provide reparations to the Kipsigis and the Talai people of Kericho County in Kenya. The report found that the Kipsigis and Talai were forcefully removed from their ancestral lands in Kenya by the British government from the 1920s onwards. The fertile land was then turned into lucrative tea plantations for private companies supplying the West. Now, currently, legal representatives of the surviving tribes are in London to meet with MPs and posed with their letter to the Duke outside the Clarence House, the home of the Prince of Wales. A non-verbal 17-year-old black British boy was found at an immigration detention centre after going missing while being treated for psychosis. He was arrested by British Transport Police at Euston on suspicion of fare evasion and taken to police custody in Islington, where officers were unable to engage with him or verify the details provided. The boy's fingerprints were then taken and he was detained by immigration enforcement. The young boy's mother states, "It's just horrific. Because he's black, they just assumed let's pick him up and put him in a deportation centre. When he was returned to hospital, his clothes contained Home Office documents that incorrectly stated his name and date of birth and recorded his nationality as Nigerian. A British Transport Police commander told the mother that when they searched the Kent address the boy had provided, they discovered a Nigerian family living there. She was told that officers then gathered that the boy was from a Nigerian background, as he had the same accent as the residents. She contested this statement, describing her son's accent when he rarely speaks as one from Manchester and London. The British Transport Police said that they were reviewing the incident internally. This is the TFV Weekly News Report.